Autumn settled over the city like a whisper, muffling its once vibrant rhythm. The streets, usually alive with footsteps, laughter, and honking horns, had quieted under a blanket of falling leaves and a gray, indifferent sky. In a forgotten alley between two crumbling apartment blocks, the silence was absolute, broken only by the wind stirring rusted cans and discarded papers. Against the cold brick wall, nestled atop a tattered scrap of cardboard, lay a German shepherd. Named Nora, time had worn down her once glorious coat into a tangled mess of dirt and dull fur. Her frame, frail and skeletal, barely held together the weight of the life she still clung to. But it wasn't her condition that stopped the heart. It was her eyes. Wide and aching, they carried the pain of everything she'd lost. And everything she still protected. Next to her, tucked into a nest of damp rags and brittle leaves, whimpered 6 newborn puppies. They twitched with every gust of cold air, their underdeveloped cries barely reaching past the alley's edge. Nora curled tighter around them, her body trembling, her warmth fading dot above them. The flickering beam of a broken street lamp cast shifting shadows across the alley. The city moved on, unaware of the tiny, flickering light of survival trapped in its forgotten corner. A few blocks away, Elena trudged home after another long, fruitless day. Her camera bag hung heavy on her shoulder, a symbol of jobs unpaid and fav-chinned, stories unseen. Freelancing wasn't easy, and lately, it felt like the city had swallowed all the magic she used to chase through her lens. She turned into the alley, a shortcut she'd used 100 times. The air changed colder, denser, full of rust and rot. Her boots echoed softly as she walked, but a faint sound pulled her up short, a soft, trembling whimper. She stopped, turned her head. Listened. There it was again, faint, fragile, alive. Elena moved toward the sound, her breath catching. As her eyes adjusted to the dim light, a pair of eyes looked back at her, deep, haunted, desperate. A dog. No. A mother. Curled tightly around her puppies like a living shield, Nora didn't growl or move. She just watched. Elena froze. The cardboard. The puppies. The cold. It was all too much. She knelt slowly, carefully, not wanting to startle her. "Hey, sweetheart," she whispered, her voice barely louder than the wind. Her fingers dug into her bag until they found a crumpled sandwich leftovers from her long day. She unwrapped it gently and pushed it across the ground. Nora didn't move. Her body was tight, coiled with fear and hunger, every instinct screaming to protect the fragile lives behind her. The smell of food hung in the air, her stomach clenched with agony. But still she didn't move, until she did. With one trembling paw, Nora inched forward. Her ribs shifted beneath her thin skin, her eyes flicking between the food and her babies. Then she lunged, not out of aggression, but desperation, and devoured the sandwich in frantic gulps, never taking her eyes off Elena. What Elena saw in those eyes was more than hunger. It was a plea, a prayer. "I'll come back for you," she whispered, her chest tightening with the weight of a silent vow. That night, Elena lay awake in her tiny apartment, haunted by what she'd seen: the mother, the babies, the cold. Every sound from the street seemed to echo the whimper of those pups. She couldn't forget. She wouldn't. By dawn, she was on her feet, camera bag forgotten. Instead, she packed a blanket, a few cans of dog food, and a bowl. The urgency in her chest drowned out all other noise. The alley was misty and still when she returned. Nora was there, unmoved. The puppies whimpered weakly under her chest. Elena crouched again. "Hey, girl. I told you I'd be back." She laid the blanket near the nest and opened a can of food, letting the scent drift toward the weakened dog. Nora's nose twitched. Her eyes met Elena's, and this time there was something else behind them: recognition. Elena reached for her phone, her hands trembling. The line clicked. "Sophia?" "It's me. I found her. A shepherd. With puppies. 6 of them. They won't make it without help." "I'm coming," Sophia said instantly. "Stay with them. 15 minutes." The alley seemed to hold its breath again as Elena whispered. Softly and pushed the food forward, Nora hovered protectively. Her muscles tensed as Sophia's figure appeared at the alley's edge, carrying a pet carrier and a calm determination. "She's my friend," Elena reassured gently. "We're here to help." Nora didn't move. But she didn't growl either. The puppies were carefully placed into the carrier, each tiny body trembling with cold. Still, Nora stayed where she was torn between instinct and trust. Elena crouched. "Again. Come on, girl. They need you." "I won't let anything happen." The wind held still. Time paused. Nora's paws hovered on the edge of the cardboard. And then she stepped forward. One step. Then another. Not because she trusted completely, but because something in her had decided to hope again. The ride to the clinic was quiet. Nora lay, curled in the back seat, eyes half closed, body spent. But her puppies were safe beside her. And Elena never once stopped looking back, her hand always nearby. For the first time in days, Nora didn't feel alone. And in the quiet hum of that early morning drive, something sacred had been born between them. A second chance. A rescue. A silent bond that only the lost and those who find them could ever understand against the carrier where her puppyish whimpered softly. Every bump in the road made her flinch, but her gaze never left small crate. When they reached the veterinary clinic, the air inside smelled faintly of disinfectant and warm fur. Dr. Sophia moved quickly, her years of rescue work showing in every calm, practiced motion. "Let's get them inside now," she said, her voice gentle but firm. Elena lifted the carrier carefully, her arms aching, not from Feud, but from the fear of what they might find. Nora followed, her step slow and shaky, her eyes wide with alarm as the unfamiliar scent of the clinic wrapped around her. On the exam table, the truth hit hard. Nora's body was little more than skin stretched over bone. Her gums were pale, her breathing shallow. The puppies, placed one by one in a warmed enclosure, were frightening light in Elena's hands. One let out a weak squeak that made her heart twist painfully. "She's severely malnourished, dehydrated," Sophia murmured, gently lifting Nora's head. "The pups are hypothermic. We need fluids and heat immediately." Elena knelt beside the table, her hand hovering before finally daring to rest in Nora's matted fur. The shepherd flinched, then went still, her weir eyes turning to meet Elena's. "You're safe now," Elena whispered, her throat tight. "I promise you're safe." For the first time since they met, Nora's trembling eased ever so slightly. In the tiny moment of surrender, Elena felt the weight of their fragile lives settle on her shoulders, and she vowed she would not let them fall. Days blurred into a quiet rhythm of care and hope. Nora lay in a soft crate lined with clean blankets, her thin frame slowly filling out as nutrient-rich fluids and gentle meals restored her strength. The harsh lines of her ribs began to soften, and the dullness in her coat gave way to faint glimmers of gold beneath the matted fur. Elena came every day. Sometimes she brought toys, some in a mess fresh blankets, but mostly she brought herself, her voice, her presence, her quiet patience. She would sit on Pfeffler beside the enclosure for hours, speaking in a low, soothing tone. "You're safe now. You did so well." At first, Nora only watched her with weary eyes, her ears twitching at every sound. But as the days passed, the stiffness in her posture eased. When Elena reached out with a piece of food, Nora no longer flinched. She leaned forward, her nose brushing Elena's fingers before taking the morsel. It was a small gesture, but to Elena, it felt monumental. fat puppies transformed even faster. Their cries grew louder, their fragile bodies stronger. One by one, their eyes opened to a world beyond cardboard and cold pavement. They wobbled on unsteady legs, bumping into each other as they explored their small space. Elena laughed softly the first time one of them attempted a playful bark. A tiny squeaky sound that filled the room with life. Watching them, Elena felt something shift inside of her. What began as an act of rescue had become something deeper, a bond woven from survival, trust, and quiet love. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe they might actually make it. 3 weeks later, the clinic felt different. The cold fear that had clung to the walls was replaced by soft sounds of life, the playful squeaks of 6 growing puppies, and the quiet sighs of a recovering mother. Nora's coat now held a faint shine, the golden markings peeking through the once matted fur. Elena sat cross-legged on the floor, her camera capturing every small victory. A wobbly step, a tiny bark, the gentle way Nora nuzzled her pups. That night, with her heart full, she posted their story online. A mother's love kept them alive. Now they need a home. Messages flooded in. Strangers offered blankets, food, donations. Many wanted to adopt, but the requests were the same. We can take one puppy. We'd love the little fluffy one. No one could take them all together. Elena read each message, her chest tightening with every line. So many kind offers, so much love, and yet all of them meant breaking this fragile circle. She turned her gaze to Nora, curled protectively around her puppies, her tired eyes holding a quiet, unshakable strength. They had survived hunger, cold, and the edge of death because they had each other. How could she be the one to tear that away? That night, in the dim light of the clinic, Elena pressed her palm gently to Nora's shed. Her voice was barely a whisper, thick with tears. I can't let them Takeo apart. So you're coming home with me? All of you, no matter what it takes. Nora's tail gave the smallest, hesitant wag as if she understood. It wouldn't be easy. Her tiny apartment, her unpredictable work, the weight of 7 new lives depending on her. But as 6 warm bodies huddled against their mother and Elena's fingers curled into soft fur, she knew one thing. Together, they would find a way. Months passed and Elena's small apartment transformed into a haven of life. The once quiet room snow echoed. With the patter of paws and soft laughter, it wasn't easy. Sleepless nights, vet bills that stretched her budget, long days balancing work and care. There were moments when exhaustion pressed hard against her shoulders. But every time she saw Nora curled on the couch with her puppies sprawled around her like a living blanket, Elena felt the weight lift. Together, they had built something more than shelter. They had built a home. The puppies grew strong and playful, their tiny squeaks turning into bright barks. Nora's eyes, once hollow and afraid, now shone with quiet confidence. Elena often caught herself watching them, a smile tugging at her lips. One evening, as the sun spilled gold across the room, she whispered to herself, "We did it. We really did." In their journey, Elena learned something simple but powerful. You don't need to have everything figured out. You just need to believe in love, in second chances, in the strength of staying together. And with that belief, a lost dog and her 6 fragile pups had turned Serval into a story of family. If you were in Elena's shoes, standing in Fat Cold Alley, with a starving mother and 6 fragile puppies, what would you do? Would you take them all home, knowing the road ahead would be hard but full of love? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below. And if Nora's story touched your heart, please hit like. Share this video with someone who believes in second chances and help spread the message that compassion can change lives.